The Alternative Football News Network. History in the making.
Good evening and welcome to the Indoor Football Experience. You're listening to the Alternative Football Network, and I'm the coach and the kids on the other line, and we're going to be talking indoor football tonight. You can listen to the Indoor Football Experience 8:15 Central Standard Time every Monday evening. RJ, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well today, Coach. How about you?
Doing real good, just always our conversation behind the scenes is always so good. Sometimes we have to shut it down, so to speak, and save it for the show. And like you said just before we came on, we got a lot to talk about tonight.
Yeah, we do. I want to start with something serious and a bit heavier. I shared the news with you earlier today. Former Kentucky River Monster and Owensboro Rage quarterback Jared Lorenzen is in the hospital. He is battling an infection along with kidney and heart issues. He's got his family by his side right now, and we here on the Indoor Football Experience, the Alternative Football News Network, and just the indoor football community as a whole, send our best wishes to the Pillsbury Throwboy. Jared was a member of the Northern Kentucky River Monsters back starting in 2011. He started as the GM, then realized he had no quarterback. And he's like, fine, I'll stop being GM, start playing quarterback. Won MVP. The next year, he became the commissioner, and then 2013 wanted to start playing again. So he joined the Owensboro Rage of the UIFL. Partway through the 2013 season, the Rage folded 2 weeks prior to the end of the season due to financial distress. And then also in 2013, he returned to the River Monsters. In his first, game of the season, there's a video of him that went viral against the Bluegrass Warhorses. The following week, though, would be the end of Lorenzen's career in a lost-to-ear explosion after he broke his tibia. So, and Lorenzen's also a Super Bowl champion. In fact, if you watch that David Tyree helmet catch, if you see the large quarterback Tyree runs into coming off the field, that's Lorenzen. They call him the hefty lefty for a reason, but now that half may have caught up with him, and I hope Lorenzen gets better. But just wanted to say that because he's also a radio show host, and he's just a good person in general. So.
Yeah, definitely a good guy overall. And like I said, prayers up to Jared Lorenzen and his family. And I've had the chance to know a lot of the guys from the Kentucky River Monsters. They're a few years in existence. A bunch of great dudes down there. Been down there before. Been in the venue he's played in as well. Like I said, he was in a bad situation before, just with how overweight he was, and he was starting to deal with that and address that. And hopefully this is just a setback, and he can get better.
Absolutely. I want to talk about a champion that was crowned this past weekend.
Sure,
the
go
West
for it.
Virginia Rough Riders. Their first year in the city took down the Carolina Energy for the Jack Bowman Cup in the AAL championship game. There's been a lot of talk on the forums from different sources saying Fornario is folding the team up. I want to clear the air on that. I talked with Greg myself. I put an article out on arenafootballtalk.com called Fornario Done with Arena Football, ended with a question mark. So Greg has not decided whether he's staying with the league and team or moving on to future ventures. He has actually been in contact with the interview process with the NFL, so he may pursue that, and to quote him directly, but to answer your question, if I decide not to come back, I'm not sure I would sell it referring to the team there. So Greg hasn't made any commitments via social media yet. It was said that one of the fans heard him say he's coming back next year, but again, it's a fan account. So, before you go post on the forums and stuff, check the sources. And ask Greg himself. He's a very sociable guy, very nice guy. Or you can ask Jesse, his media manager, also an amazing guy. So, congrats on winning that. And, it was a very emotional night for Fornario. Not only because it's the second championship in 3 years, but, and you can find a video of it, but he got emotional talking about the late Jack Bowman, the co-founder of the American Arena League, because Bowman was the guy that got him into the industry, and, he misses him, and I think we all do as a community. But congratulations to the Rough Riders. I think what they have proven is that it doesn't matter what city they are in, what league they're in, they're going to come and they're going to win.
Yeah, a good organization always starts from top to bottom. And even when they first started off in, what was it, the Arena Pro League or whatever.
Arena Pro Football.
Arena Pro Football League. That year and the year before showed signs of being a really stout organization, able to keep a lot of their solid foundation of players, I guess is really what I'm getting at, and then keep quality players in the skilled and in the important leadership positions. So again, like you said, congratulations to the West Virginia Rough Riders. They went out and they got it done.
Yeah, and I'm glad the game was played in Wheeling. I feel the AIL did a solid there because there was talk about potentially being played at Bojangles Coliseum, and that was a whole controversy in itself on a smaller scale. But if you want to talk about controversy, well, Coach, we got a lawsuit. So the National Gridiron League, not everybody's super aware of it, because it kept a low profile on social media. And way back when AFT Buzz, I think it was like the third or fourth episode, I was talking to Bryce about it, who runs the show, and he said something along the lines of, "Who's ever quiet in arena football?" And that really struck a chord with me. And now, and Coach used some first-hand experience, but I want to give the recap of what's going on with the Indiana Firebirds. No, this is not the AFL team with the exact same name. So what's going on is that Nick Hart, the man who was hired to coach the team, is filing a lawsuit for some unpaid money. His base salary was set at $62,000. It also notes he was eligible for up to $1,500 in bonuses if the Firebirds generated $500,000 in revenue, and a $10,000 bonus if the team hit $1 million in revenue. So the NGL hasn't even taken a snap yet. They were supposed to kick off this year, but got pushed back to 2020. Joe McClendon III, the founder and owner of the league, insists that they are still going to play. But, some people said some less than kind things about it. But, Coach, you had some first-hand experiences with the league. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can always – I never ever got a feeling that the NGO was going to get off of the ground. There's too many red flags. There's too many key things that head coaches and front office people would look for to be established in the onset before league really got going, and none of those things were. It was just, anybody can go places and visit and have lunch with people and talk, and post pictures and whatnot and talk football, I guess, you and I can do that, but does that mean that we have everything under lock and key and we're able to start that league when it's supposed to start? I don't even really want to say too much because I know so much, but there was a real lack of information, solid information being provided. Number one, number two, there was lots of quality questions being asked by coaches like Coach Hart, Coach Pimmel, Kelvin Kinney, who was supposed to coach in Indiana, the other team in Indiana as well. And those questions never got addressed, whether they were asked in October or whether they were asked in February, March, or April. A lot of the key questions got addressed. And when you're within a month of a season and you're supposed to start and you don't have uniforms and equipment and venue leases signed, arenas without turf, it's going to be awful hard to get your league off the ground. And there was just too many red flags. And, there's people out there involved with teams right now, like we were talking behind the scenes, that you have to be upfront with players and let them know, but you don't want to sound negative about anything, so you do want to let the players know, hey, these guys are advertising for tryouts again. And when you're somebody like me who deals with and talks with a lot of players, whether I contact them or they contact me via phone, email, text message, social media, messages, whatever, a lot of times they just want to know what you know. And the one thing I've always tried to do is not talk up anything and just tell the exact firm information that I know. And that's what I've done in this situation. Several teams close by the region that I'm in St. Charles, Missouri, where, there was supposed to be an NGL team, but there's an arena currently there without AstroTurf.
Yeah, you sold it to the Idaho Horsemen.
And
well, you didn't, but the arena did.
No, an individual did, to be correct about that. Again, the turf and things like that become either assets of said owner once they take over, or a lot of times the turf is an asset of the arena. So it just depends on what type of venue that you play in. It also depends on whether the turf is laid down full time or not. Okay. It just doesn't get laid down by itself. That takes labor, that takes time, that takes money, that takes hours.
Yeah, there are actually some really cool conversion videos you can find on YouTube of them converting from ice hockey to indoor ball and even basketball to indoor ball. And to really appreciate what goes on, they're like the 5-minute time-lapse videos. So, if it was real time, it took them hours, even days sometimes. So it's real effort, and it honestly is interesting to watch the procedure they go through.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. I've seen all the conversions that you talked about, because the family arena has had all those sports. I've seen basketball, indoor soccer, ice hockey, and indoor football. So, indoor football generally takes, if you're just going to transition the regular arena floor, and this is excluding any kind of ice being laid, usually is going to take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to get everything perfect. Make sure the turf is laid, all the seams are the way they need to be, all the corners are down, and then your dasher pads and this and that. So I've literally stayed in an arena, been in an arena for the entire process of a build and a breakdown. So again, it just depends. Some teams play in venues where turf is down all the time. That's not an issue. So the NGL at one point in time, from what I heard from very solid, reliable sources who were involved in the league in a much higher level than, say, myself, just being in a city with a team and knowing the brass that was involved at the time, were told that the NGL and Joe McClendon would be buying and purchasing turf for all 12 teams in the league.
Mm.
Now, what does that sound like? That doesn't even sound like something that's, who's heard of that,
Well, also, I didn't hear the word new in there as well. So,
right.
Yes, I imagine if you diverted, a large majority of your money, you could probably get 12 fields, but even then, that'd be most of your money going to fields alone, just the turfs. It's unrealistic, and that's getting cheap turfs too. The Reno Express is selling their old turf right now. I know Tim Vaines might be selling his turfs. His turf is still for sale on eBay. It's at $18,000 if you're all interested.
Yeah, go out and just buy some turf, and that would be a great deal. So if Joe McClendon could, it probably takes 50 for new, if you're buying 12 tracks, if you're capable to do that, if you're buying 12 tracks, but otherwise it's unrealistic. And if you have a team if you have a team and they don't have turf, or you have a league and you are involved in a venue negotiations with a lease and the turf and the team doesn't even have turf, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, and that's all I want to talk about on the NGL front. Just thought it was an interesting story. I'm interested to see how it plays out, and something that I felt was definitely newsworthy. One last thing on turf, real quick. Who the heck is going to buy that All Revolution turf now? It's bright red.
Yeah, somebody will though for the right price, and that's the deal. So that's the thing that's kind of a bummer, when things go awry, so to speak, and then you're left. I think about some of these teams now that do have custom turf, and whether it's the Danger, the Storm, or even the Ironman. Yeah, them as well. I was thinking of at the time, though, Western Michigan. That's why I say when you get that, man, you got to find a way to stay in business because someone's going to be stuck with that bill. Indoor teams aren't making enough money in a season to cover the cost of new turf.
Yeah, and that's why you see some new teams using older turfs the first year round. Like I referenced earlier, the Reno Express. They use the old Reno Barons turf. There's a throwback for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, and you said, about, quote, cutting corners, unquote, basically saving money where you can without, taking too many liberties.
Well, like we were talking about the turf from the arena, the family arena, excuse me. Idaho got a great deal. The turf was in excellent condition. I don't care what anybody says. If the turf wouldn't been, and you're responsible for player personnel, you're responsible for what you're putting your players on. And so that's me speaking as someone who's been on that turf. As an executive, I would have no problem with my players playing on it. And as a player, I'd have no problem playing on it. It was very high quality with an inch pad, which was very nice because it wasn't like hitting the ground. At least there was some resistance and give, and it hadn't been cut on too much or painted too much. That's what really starts to happen. You start, we got a new league logo, so you're on trying to paint your third league logo. It's like covering up a tattoo. You know what I'm saying, man? It just gets to be a mess in the end. And then sometimes, man, all you can do is just paint the end zone black or paint it a solid color to get rid of all the different teams that have done things in the end zone. It's going to look a mess anyway. So if it's just a solid color, people can't see all the other stuff that's underneath and whatnot,
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a tactic that works, especially when you have darker colors. When it's the brighter colors, that's a different battle.
And what was the name of the team? The such and such, the LA Kiss?
Yes.
They were really the front runners for the whole custom turf thing. Give them credit, it didn't work out, but the guys who put their turf in there had the bucks to dissolve the hit, it wasn't a big deal,
Yeah, and now the championship turf with Greg Fernando's Rough Riders, they're the ones who got it.
Exactly. That was, you took me right to where I was trying to go, so they were able to move their turf to somebody who's getting great mileage out of it, now. One of the main costs in turf for lower level teams is just the transportation of it, So especially in the situation that you're talking about, going from one coast to another, with a field, essentially a field. But they were the ones who started everything, and my point was going to be they started it, and they were the first to really move a custom turf that was some color other than green.
Yeah, because, listen, you can have as many shades of green that you want, but they're kind of like the Boise State Broncos of the indoor game, for a reference point.
Yeah, I wish they would have stuck around. I wish things would have worked out a lot better for them, but it didn't. So that's how it goes. In case you're just joining us, you're listening to the Indoor Football Experience. I'm the coach. That's the kid over there. We kind of altered our script a little bit today, but we're going to get back on track because, like I said, we still got some other leagues and things to talk about. But we wanted to go a different direction and touch on some things. If you want to join us and listen live, you can check in at afnn.net. And maybe I'll throw up Facebook Live here in a little bit as we transition to talk a little bit about the indoor football league. And again, two great games last weekend to set up their championship. And why don't we start off? With the first game that actually went down, which was the Sioux Falls Storm squeaking one out against the Iowa Barnstormers on the
Yeah.
road, 52-50. Great football game.
Oh, absolutely. I gotta say, when you look at the box score, things were looking on the up and up for Iowa until that fourth quarter hit. They allowed 21 points there.
Yeah, well, there's there's an old saying, and I was told this a long time ago. There's a couple critical times you don't want to be giving up points late in the first half, and in the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. And the last few minutes of the fourth quarter is like the last 5 minutes of the game or so. And really, their slow start almost held them back, only scoring 6 points in the first quarter. The one thing that I was noticing during the course of the game, I was noticing Dixie Wooten, former River City Rage quarterback and Iowa Barnstormers head coach, man, really fired up and leaning on the officials quite a bit throughout the game. Now, I hadn't noticed that out of him before. Okay, I understand it's a big game, but sometimes it can take away from your coaching. And at the end of the day, a coach of that caliber, I just wonder how much him leaning on the officials the way he was really on them quite a bit. I don't know if everything's justified or not. I'm not out there on the field to know everything that's going on. I just know what I'm seeing, And sometimes that can be a distraction, deviate your attention, and you're just not as sharp as what you normally would be, because I think he makes basically all the calls, all the on-field calls for the Barnstormers, and that's really, really tough, man. You're out there game situation, man, from wire to wire, making all the calls, offense, special teams, and defensively. Yeah, you have the help of this coach or that coach, but generally at this level, by the time it comes game day, the head coach, he's the main one. It's his time to shine. It's not like the NFL, where even Bill Belichick has had during his tenure, his last 2 decades, he's had high-profile coordinators and coaches on his staff. These leagues don't necessarily work like that. Coaches, they come with a lot of clout, and they're expected to do a lot of front office stuff as well, and they're expected to win on the field.
Definitely. It was a good game. Obviously, if you're in Iowa, it was to turn out differently for that team. But it was a fun game in general. And, for the IFL playoffs, that's what you need. You need quality games. That's how you keep things interesting to fans who are just tuning in, because, let's say you're an AAL fan. All right, my league just ended. I hear you guys games. I'm going to tune in next week. Which will be in 2 weeks because of the United Bowl being then. But,
right.
Looking at other leagues because they get good reputations.
Yeah, I think this league has been pretty solid all year long, and particularly down the stretch. You got some good games late, and then the playoffs set up about like we thought that they were going to set up, particularly with a mix of experience and so-called expansion or newer teams. Okay, and so we got the best of the best, and like I said, man, what more could you ask for than Sioux Falls and Iowa Barnstormers in a semifinal playoff game? I'm looking at some of the statistics right now, and over the last few weeks, we've talked a lot about time of possession, and time of possession came down to 31 minutes. I don't know who did these stats. 31 minutes for Sioux Falls and 29 for the Iowa Barnstormers.
Well, Coach, here's the thing about the time this time. It adds up to the full hour. Last time we were at 59 minutes and 58 seconds.
Hey, like I said, I don't know who did the time, man, but it's always something.
I'm just joking around with them. This is not a big grievance I have. It's just having a little bit of fun, so.
Yeah, hey, the thing is, you never know who's keeping the stats at these games, man. I used to really try. What I tried to do was I tried to use all my high school officiating buddies for everything. Okay. Hey, can you run the officials? Hey, can you make sure we have the officials assigned? Hey, can you keep stats? Hey, can you run the scoreboard? Hey, can you run the game clock? Hey, can you run the 25? I mean, I would just use officials across the board to do it all because they had some semblance of what they were doing. And they're the kind of guys who, would get into a football game just because it was some football. It's either that or nothing.
That's great. How many
So
of them are you still in contact with? I'm just kind of curious.
A good amount, but it's the kind of thing that it's like you kind of gotta keep your circles kind of close because people get upset when they don't get the opportunity to become involved. But I'm still involved with all of them. One of them in particular, it's kind of funny story I'll share with you. One of them in particular, he and we started officiating on the very same day at a Little League field together. And we went on to basically officiate for about 18 years together. We officiated on the same high school crew for 7, and we did 4 semifinals and a state championship. And we officiated on the same college crew for a couple years. So, and we officiated on the same arena crew for on and off for about 3-4 years. So, he is just somebody that I've been around. Like I said, day one, hey, is this how many games you done? None. How many games you done? None. All right. And then they throw you in the fire of screaming and yelling Little League parents. But me and this particular guy, man, like I said, we've been friends since day one. I actually have placed a call to him recently as well in regards to some things that could be going on locally. And he was up for the challenge and ready to go. You don't get to officiate forever. And he's lucky. He's taking good care of himself. And he's still out there doing it, even though, he's getting up there and age. So being an official, man, just like being a player, at the end of the day, you don't know when your time's going to be over. You don't know when you don't really get to say how it ends. It's just like being an athlete, dude.
Yeah. And I got a question because this is something I love to ask umpires and officials. What's the most obscure / strange penalty you've had to call?
It's probably been something, let me see. On the football field, as far as calling something in regards to a team, it's probably been enforcing something silly like you hear on a lot of the IFL games, though. The coach having, to being outside the numbers or whatever. Usually everything's pretty straightforward. Have had to penalize a team before for somebody throwing something onto the arena surface.
Oh, brother. There's that famous
probably be those two things. Having to penalize a team or something that somebody did in the stands.
Yeah, because there's that famous clip of the Jacksonville Sharks fan back during their AFL days holding back the Talons player by the helmet. He got ejected from the arena, but you're just the commentary was great. Look up the highlight if you haven't. It's something special. Don't replicate it, but if you need a little chuckle in your day, I say look at it.
Yeah, there was a lady in Little Rock one time officiating down there, and I was the line judge, and my back was to both of the benches. And so the whole game, you have both of the benches, no matter where you are. It's like one bench and then a little media area there, and then the other bench. There's a lady behind the visiting bench, and she screamed and yelled almost from the second that the officials took the field. I never turned around and to address anything or just do anything. And at one point it was kind of quiet, and I was like, wow, what happened to that lady? And so I was the Omaha Beef was playing down there, and I asked one of the players on the stands. I guess the lady had gotten all drunk and freaked out and threw a cup of beer towards the players' bench, and they ejected her.
Yeah, listen, I'm not encouraging people to fight. But if you are, maybe don't antagonize the pro athletes who are much larger than you.
The funny thing is, man, at arena games, man, I've mentioned this before. you get seems like to me, a lot of ladies, a lot of women at arena games, and if you talk to a lot of them like I have, they say, hey, they really like it, man. A lot of action, fast guys out there, a lot of scoring, things happen quick. They don't have to watch a 100-yard field. It's just a short field. They really like it. But at some of the places that are known to be, rowdy, raucous places, you get some diehard female fans in there, man. And man, they're going for broke, cheering like crazy, yelling, screaming, and you're literally are just like, wow, But that's what I used to live for, man. The noise in the arena. Because that always set me at a level that I wanted to do my best work. I can't be that guy who doesn't, do my job here and doesn't execute as an official. So the louder it was, the better. And there was nothing better than a tight game coming down the stretch or any game that involved overtime. I didn't even mind double overtime.
That had to be fun. I do want to move on. Not because I did not enjoy your stories, but we do have a time limit, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, so in the Intense Conference Championship, the Arizona Rattlers took on the Nebraska Danger, was it?
Yeah.
Yep, the Danger, that's right. So the Rattlers won that one 62-45. It was really the second quarter's defense that killed the Danger and the lack of first quarter offense that really hurt them.
Yeah, definitely. The Rattlers have been relatively high-scoring, high-powered offense all year long. Seem to make a lot of changes that so even somewhat held them back a little bit, in my opinion. Down the stretch here, but anyway, they've still been able to score consistently and put points on the board. And teams like that, you have to go with them blow by blow. And again, falling a little short, dropping the first quarter 14-7, and then dropping the second quarter, as you mentioned, 21 points to just 10 points by the Danger. It's really hard to come back. You can't get down by two score type deficits. And then they were only able to win really one quarter. They were 14. Each team got 14 points in the third quarter, and Danger got 13 in the fourth, and the Rattlers got 13. But that 21 in the second quarter, and again the second quarter, you can't go into halftime, man, giving up a lot of touchdowns and falling behind.
Definitely. And for the Rattlers, this was a big game for them for reasons that is no fun for any fan, but is a part of the game, and that's changing arenas because Talking Stick Resort Arena, the old Snake Pit, as I'm going to call it, has renovations going on, so they moved to Gila River Arena for this game. And I bet if you were watching, a lot of you guys didn't even notice, if I'm being honest. If you didn't look at the seats and just look at the field and the amount of fans, you said, yeah, this is Talking Stick Resort Arena, right?
I took a hard look at things just to see. Yeah, obviously, people like myself and yourself, we notice, but I took a hard look at things to see what the real difference was. And man, the arena looked good. The playing surface looked good. Everything looked great. So, in my opinion, if you were able to make that type of a transition to an alternate arena and still have your game day presentation and everything looks so fresh and so, just have energy in the building and everything. Man, kudos to them, man.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to be playing for the next 2 seasons. So, that's where the United is going to be played. So, get used to going to see games at Gila River Arena if you're in Glendale, Arizona.
It kind of reminds me of Billings. I forget exactly what year it was, around 2010 maybe, where their arena got damaged from weather, and they were hosting the championship game. Yeah, I think it was the 2010 season, and they ended up basically playing in a soccer house, and their arena and the advantages they had from their home crowd. That was their definite ninth man, so to speak, for them. So. Like I said, they weren't able to transition to a quality arena that was that was already, up and ready to go. And again, did not significantly affect your game day presentation. And I think at the end of the day, that's the one thing that's really key, especially in this industry, is home games and really, really putting out a good product for your fans, especially the young kids, and making sure that they want to come back. So arenas like with concourses and things like that, you can do a lot of different things, whether it's face painting or, give out the little wristbands or what have you, but game day presentation is key to make it fan friendly. And it looked like that they were still able to do that without too much problem.
Yep, and I want to talk about the CIF. So the Dukes City Gladiators have once again moved on to the Champions Bowl. Winning a crucial playoff game, they'll be taking on the Salina Liberty. In the semifinals, Duke City took down Amarillo 70-62, and Salina edged out the Omaha Beef 44-42. So 2 great games in Champions Indoor Football. And something came up this week that during tight games is the worst. Bad communications with the feeds. And fans have said their opinions on Pluto TV. They're very strong opinions. They're the only place, CIF is the only place that uses Pluto TV. And, they're still mastering the craft of the live stream, some people would say.
Yeah, one thing I try and do is I don't want to be that guy that's coming out bashing people. And I know you don't either. One thing, I experienced Pluto TV for the first time in 2017. Watched a lot of games the first year that indoor games were on Pluto. I did not have, really did not have too many problems of any significance whatsoever. And my devices that I was using at that time aren't nearly as good as the ones that I'm using now to watch streaming and things of that nature. The problem I see with Pluto is apparently they haven't ascended and progressed with what they're doing with live feeds and streaming. And so they're kind of falling behind. And that seems to be, the a lot of the complaints that you're hearing. I'll be upfront with you. I just don't watch that many live CIF games outside of Duke City because of our fellow friends and guests of the indoor football experience, DC Stoneham and Dello Davis. Those guys, I like watching those guys, and those are guys who, we're familiar with and we know, so I watch them quite a bit. But when I watch an archive version, I don't have, don't have too much problem watching too much of anything. But a lot of the live feeds for Pluto, like I said, I just don't watch enough to really comment. Ultimately, I feel like YouTube is the best alternative for a league like the Champions. It's working out great for the National Arena League. It's working out great for the Indoor Football League. And it works out great for guys like me and you. You and I have talked numerous times during the course of this show how, we had 5-6 windows open watching all kinds of games and didn't have any problems whatsoever keeping up.
Yeah, and it's great. The CIF has bounced around streaming services. They used to be on Eversport. Now they moved to Pluto. If they were to not go to YouTube and they could somehow get a deal with Roku, which has been the hottest streaming app in recent times, that would be great for the league, because if they want to continue doing that alternate streaming, streaming platform, right, I think Roku would be the best deal. Obviously, Roku just blew up, so the rates, I assume, just went up a good bit. But hey, Fire Stick is also good. Or just go to YouTube. That's where everyone's at, because one of our AF and Talk family members, Michael Washington Weeks, or MW Squared, who helps host AFN Live every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He could not find where the CIF plays. I think they could advertise that a bit better, because you sometimes get feeds with no sound on Facebook, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy I can watch it on my Facebook feed as well, but not quite the same without the sound.
Yeah, no, it's not at all. And like I said, the reason that you want to be on YouTube now is the thing that I like is I don't have to go to different platforms to watch two different leagues right now. So that's the main reason why the IFL and the National Arena League get so much of my attention when I sit down to watch games. I can sit down, I can open several windows, and I can keep up with a couple games of each league. So if I've got to open up something different or this stream's bad or this or that, I'm not going to be interested in watching anyway. So why not be on YouTube TV where your I don't know, your contemporaries, your competition, and well, I don't know how they consider themselves in all these leagues, but why not make it one-stop shopping? And if you can watch indoor football here, you can watch all the leagues, and I just think it'd be better for the CIF to move on over to YouTube where these other leagues are.
Definitely, that's all opinionated. At least it wasn't back when the Salty Screaming Eagles decided, we're not going to be using, YouTube anymore. We're going to be on Twitch TV.
Was that where that was the call your own play guys?
Yes, I took part in that. It was a fun experience. The fan controlled football league never took off. I mean, it's still around, but it hasn't taken off. If nothing, it was definitely an interesting experience.
Did they call any of the?
Oh, they called the plays. They definitely called the plays. But what happened was that half the time, the team had like 10 seconds to really get the playoff after they were sent over to the players. So it's definitely an interesting idea.
Yeah, so I never knew exactly how the play calling went down, so to speak. I only watched the league because Sean Leota, I guess that was his team that he had there, the Salt Lake Screaming Eagles or what have you. And he had some good stuff on YouTube about indoor special teams and indoor offense and this and that. And then he had a real good book out, probably the only book on indoor football out there. It's called Developing and Maintaining a Successful Professional Indoor Franchise.
You're going to have to send me a link to that, Coach. You're going to have to do that for me because, for the listeners out there, one of my pipe dreams, and, if you would charitably donate this to become a reality, I'm joking, I'm not going to beg for money, is to one day help run my own arena team or indoor team. So, I got to read up on that.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. The book's getting a little old now, but and some things have changed within the industry. But I've referred it and I've read it myself a couple of times. I just essentially use it as a reference. But I have referred the book to several people recently, and it's really good. And the good thing I like about it is, and I'll get you the info when we get off get off air here in a little bit. Thing I like about it is I got the online version. It was like $10, and I was reading the book, within like 5 minutes. So that's the thing. So again, if you're just joining in, you listen to the Indoor Football Experience. This is the coach. That's the kid. We're talking about everything tonight. We've talked a little bit earlier in the show, in case you missed it, about some American Arena League action, and congratulations to the West Virginia Rough Riders. We've also talked a little National Arena League. We've talked a little Champions Indoor Football League, and we just kind of finished talking a little bit about the IFL playoffs that took place, basically, essentially their semifinal round. You also want to stay tuned for the coach and the kids indoor arena player of the week. That's always going to be how we wind down things. So I know everybody out there listening worldwide is eagerly anticipating who you and I might be choosing tonight, RJ.
Definitely. I got some people in mind. I want to talk on the National League for a second. So once again, I was at the Westchester County Center, where you can find me for every Streets home game. So if you're going to be there, hit me up on Facebook. I'd love to meet with you guys. I got to talk with Corey Galloway, the owner himself, which was a great honor. Thank you for that, Corey. It was a fun time. I also got to interview David Legree, the Streets quarterback. It was a good game. one thing that I love, is intriguing to me is Coach Rick Marsilio. After they scored first, he decided to go for two. I'm not going to judge the coach. I just think it's a different mindset than what you see a lot of time in the league, and I'd love to hear his reasoning for it. But Coach, you've been in his position calling plays before. What do you think the mindset behind that could be?
I don't know. I'm not totally familiar with the situation. Sometimes, during the course of the week, you put things in that you just think are going to work, and it sounds like one of those things that he had his mind made up in advance that that's what they were going to do. That's the direction they were going to go. It doesn't sound like a spur of the moment decision by any means. So. A lot of times, I think coaches, particularly at this level, you think out every situation. So many coaches now, have a laminated card with every play situation on there. And the one thing I do like about having a play card on you is you can take a look at it and make sure that you do have everything covered. And somewhere along the way, they must have had a play that they felt good about.
Yeah. The game ended with the New York Streets losing 51-42 to the Jacksonville Sharks. Also, I want to point this out more as a fun fact I realized this past week. This is not to say anything's happening or not happening, but so I was just talking in the chat. Jose Bahina of Inside the Arena made a joke, and I realized, hey, I just realized. No team founded the National Arena League with red as a primary or secondary color made it out of year one. Corpus Christi Rage folded. Dayton Wolfpack folded. Maine Mammoth on hiatus, so I'm not counting them out yet, but the counts get into a 7 or an 8.
Right.
I'm not saying about the Orlando Predators right now. I'm just saying it's a fun little thing I found. And, hey, now you can brag to your indoor and arena football friends that you know something they don't.
So you were saying these teams that just had one colored uniform, one colored jersey?
No, had red in their color scheme.
Oh, okay, all right.
Only NEL found it because the Sharks have been around for a full decade now. I can't say anything about that.
Right. That's interesting. Well, that brings us right to something that I wanted to touch on before, again, we go with our players of the week. We were talking about the National Arena League, and they have expansion opportunities posted big and bold across the front of their website. So any of those guys out there that might be thinking about bringing an expansion team, and make sure you don't have red in your color scheme, and you'll probably be good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the league expand. It's been talked about a couple times. The Nashville Cats trademark is active. The former AFL franchise. The Milwaukee Mustangs trademark was reactivated recently. So that's out there. So, I'm excited to see where this league goes. I think everybody in the New England area, except for Massachusetts, because they already got the Pirates, is pulling for the Maine Mammoth to come back. At the end of last year, I felt they were the team with the most upside in the National Arena League. But then the Carolina Cobras came in dominant fashion to win the league, and they continued their dominance last week, destroying the Orlando Predators 60-0.
Yeah, we talked a little bit before the show started about this game, and I guess what's this, a second shutout on the level that on the leagues that we basically cover.
Third, actually, because it happened to Cedar Rapids. Who else happened to? Because it happened twice. Cedar Rapids, was it, or was it once San Diego? I think as well. I know there are 2 in the IFL, and now this one NAL.
Okay, so 3, very unusual still for even 1, let alone 3. But I can understand that the Cedar Rapids one, things just weren't going their way. They weren't trending and they weren't ascending. This Cobras Predators one is a lot more of a shocker. In my opinion, it leads to make you want to know what's going on in Orlando. A lot of these teams are competing and playing their best football this time of year, and getting shut out means that there's probably some other things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, because, listen, players can only do so much. Yeah, the guys out in the field, but again, they only hold so much power. And, there are a lot of issues that come up with these leagues, so I don't blame the ownership too much. Stuff happens, sometimes out of your control and sometimes unexpected. So, stuff happens. But when you see a shutout, like you said, Coach, there may be more going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, that team hadn't been playing. There was nothing that leads us to believe that they should get shut out. Okay, a lot of times as these seasons go on, when a team's not playing well or things aren't going their way, it keeps trending that way. And you're usually losing every one almost, but getting shut out, particularly in this league where scoring is of the essence, and that's really what they advertise, so to speak. It's just really surprising. So again, things heating up in the National Arena League while the championship games are pending in the Champions Indoor Football League and in the Indoor Football League. So should be an interesting week to continue following what's going on in the industry. A lot of off-season talk already starting to pop up out there. So before we close out of here, RJ, I guess my point is, even though the games are going to be wound down in one league in the American Arena League, I'll be winding down in the two other leagues in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll have the National Arena League. By that time, will really be in the thick of things. But it should be, like Charles Barkley said in the NBA, should be a crazy off season, and I think that it will be.
Absolutely. There is no such thing as a calm or a normal off-season in this industry. Players are jumping teams are jumping leagues are folding, merging, popping up. Like those games, like play a game where you're and you have to pop, it's a game where you just try to spread something worldwide. And to get points, you have to pop these bubbles that pop up all over the place. That's basically what these indoor teams are. Just everything's going on everywhere, and you're just trying to figure out, okay, now who said that or who said what? Okay, following this part, now that part. It's a circus, but it's a fun ride. It's regulated.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we jump on to pay attention for a reason. So I know I do, I know you do, and everybody else does. So again, as we wind down here, we're going to jump into our player of the week. I don't want to ambush you since you've gone first the last couple of weeks. I was going to go ahead and jump on out there and throw mine out there.
All right.
My indoor football experience player of the week is going to go to the Sioux Falls Storm veteran quarterback Lorenzo Brown Jr. Turned in 15 completions and 23 attempts for 208 yards. I always say over 200 yards in the indoor games like a 300-yard game outdoor. 5 TDs in the air. And then this is nice, 17 rushing attempts for 8 yards, 0.05 average, a long of 13, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. So the man accounted for 8 touchdowns and a big 52-50 win over the Iowa Barnstormers on the road. So the coach's indoor football experience player of the week is going to be Lorenzo Brown Jr. from the Sioux Falls Storm.
That's a good pick. I also have a quarterback. But not from the IFL. I'm going to give it to Robert Kent of the Duke City Gladiators. Now, Mr. Kent had an amazing game, going 14 of 19 for 217 yards and 7 touchdowns, leading the Gladiators to another Champions Bowl appearance. And that's not to discredit Nate Davis, who I do want to give an honorable mention here. He threw for 281 yards and 6 touchdowns, but, passing percentage wasn't quite as good, so I gave it to Robert Kent.
Yeah, outstanding pick, and that's an outstanding matchup at quarterback. And that game, Nate Davis and Robert Kent. So there you have it. There's the indoor football experience player of the week from the coach, Lorenzo Brown Jr. From the kid, it will be quarterback Robert Kent from the Duke City Gladiators. So before we get out of here, RJ, I know we can catch you at all the New York Streets games, as you let all of our listeners know, in case anybody's in the area. Make sure that they get in contact with you so you can meet up with them and they can say hello. Where can we find you on social media during the course of the week? A lot going on.
Yeah, so you can follow me on my Instagram, RJ_Ciancio. Ciancio is spelled C-I-A-N as in Nancy, C-I-O. You could also find me on Twitter at CiancioRJ or follow my Facebook, RJ Ciancio. And Coach, where can we find you?
And you can find me, the coach. You can find me on Facebook under my name, Lin, Lynn, last name Hart, H-A-R-T, Jr. So on Facebook at Lynn Hart Jr. You can follow me on Twitter at TheCoach28, all lowercase. Things picking up there. I'm adding a lot more stuff on Twitter here in the last week and will this week as well. There's lots going on over here in this area. And you can also find me on Instagram, all lowercase again, _Coach28. So that's where you can find me, the coach. Make sure that you follow the kid. He's got a lot of good stuff going on Facebook. Make sure you check him out. Make sure you friend him so you can follow everything that he's got going on. It's been another great show, RJ.
Yes, definitely. And make sure to follow AFNN on Facebook. We also got a Twitter account running now. We also are on Instagram, so we're on all the major platforms now. No disrespect to Snapchat, it's just that we want to have news up for more than 24 hours at a time.
Yeah,
so
I don't
you can find us,
mess with that.
Yeah, and we also have a new Facebook group, XFL Alt. So, come and join that. It's like 3 questions to join. I believe one of them is like, what is 1 + 1? So you should be able to answer that and get it pretty easily.
No doubt. So make sure that you get over there again, and also make sure that you jump on the website. I've been neglecting it myself a little bit, been spending a little bit more time over there. Great content over there, a bunch of great guys over there. It also has our player for the Alternative Football News Network. So jump over there and check out Arena Football AFN Talk. You can check that out at afnn.net. So we're going to get out of here. I don't want to start rambling like I feel like I'm doing. That is RJ, the kid. I'm the coach. For our awesome producer, Harry Bob, make sure you join us next week on the Indoor Football Experience, 8:15 Central Standard Time. Peace.
The Alternative Football News Network. History in the making.